Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat datang diucapkan kepada semua ke program Wacana Ikram Australia pada hari ini yang bertajuk Palestine Ask Me Anything. Wacana kita pada hari ini akan sama-sama membincangkan isu hangat yang sedang diperkatakan di peringkat global pada hari ini, iaitu krisis kemanusiaan di Palestin. Tema wacana pada kali ini adalah Ask Me Anything, di mana saya sebagai moderator akan bertanyakan soalan-soalan kepada tetamu jemputan kita. Soalan-soalan ini telah dikumpulkan melalui link yang telah diedarkan di Facebook page IKRAMOZ Australia. Walau bagaimanapun, kita juga akan cuba mengambil soalan yang ditanyakan di page wacana, di page IKRAMOZ Australia secara live pada hari ini. InsyaAllah wacana pada kali ini akan dibahagikan pada dua sesi. Sesi yang pertama, Palestine Past, Future and Present, akan berlangsung selama 1 jam bersama saudara Khalid bin Jimat. Dalam sesi ini kita akan membincangkan berkenaan latar belakang krisis Palestin. Untuk sesi yang kedua, Let's Contribute, kita akan bersama dengan Bro Hilmi Dabakh selama 30 minit. Sesi ini akan dikendalikan dalam bahasa Inggeris. Kita akan membincangkan apa yang boleh kita lakukan pada hari ini secara di peringkat individu dan juga komuniti untuk membantu perjuangan Palestin. Tanpa membuang masa, izinkan saya untuk memperkenalkan tetamu jemputan kita pada yang pertama, iaitu saudara Khalid bin Jimat. Beliau adalah pengurus penyelidikan dan pendidikan Humanitarian Care Malaysia, MyCare. Beliau juga adalah ketua pegawai penyelidik Palestine Center of Excellence, PACE, Timbalan Pengurusi Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions BDS Movement Malaysia sejak 2018 hingga kini. Beliau juga adalah timbalan pengarah Task Force Just Future for Palestine, JFP, Flotilla 2018. Beliau juga adalah Sekretariat Asian Coalition for Palestine, ACP, sejak 2019. Sekretariat Save Al-Quds Campaign di Malaysia sejak 2014. Pengasas Kelab Sahabat Aqsa, UKM, 2011. Selain itu, beliau juga sangat aktif dalam penulisan dan penerbitan. Beliau adalah editor kepada Jihad Akhbar Fardu Ain, 100 tahun agenda Zionis di Palestin, dan beliau juga adalah penulis buku 20 persoalan asas intifada. Jadi secara kesimpulannya, rasa Akhi Khalid bin Jimat adalah orang terbaik yang boleh dijemput pada hari ini untuk mengulas isu pada hari ini. Okey, Akhi Khalid, boleh kita teruskan dengan soalan seterusnya ni ya?
Boleh insya-Allah.
Tadi Khalid dah jawab soalan yang pertama, tapi ada masalah teknikal sikit. Rasa dapatlah kita rasakan pressure daripada Zionism yang tidak suka kepada apa yang kita buat insya-Allah pada hari ini. Okey, Khalid, soalan yang kedua, Henry Kissinger, which is seorang diplomat Australia, pernah berpendapat ataupun pernah menyatakan pendapatnya dan Israel akan pupus seawal tahun 2022. Apa pendapat Akhi sendiri tentang statement macam ni? Anda rasa bukan Henry Kissinger saja, ada beberapa orang lain juga pernah berpendapat yang Israel akan pupus dalam masa yang terdekat lah sebenarnya. Apa pendapat anda?
Okey. Ini satu kenyataan yang dibuat oleh Kissinger tahun 2012. Yang dibuat at the back macam komen dia secara informal lah dalam perbualan dia dengan beberapa wartawan dan sebagainya. Dan di pick up lah oleh one of the penulis yang selalu buat kolumnis di akhbar, dan dia quote. So dia quote tu tanpa konteks, dia just sebut Kissinger sebut maybe 2022 Israel dah tak ada, because of the policy yang dirangka ketika itu yang dilihat semakin akan menyebabkan Zionis akan pupus lah. So pendapat ni dia tidak ada dokumen yang official lah tentang perkara ini, tapi banyak yang dokumen officialnya banyak yang mengatakan bahawa the occupation Israel punya penjajahan di West Bank, di Gaza yang mereka buat ni, dia tak feasible, maksudnya tidak akan bertahan lama. Disebabkan penentangan yang berlaku, sama ada popular uprising ataupun resistance yang dibuat oleh rakyat Palestin, kemudian sokongan antarabangsa, dan kemudian kita melihat bagaimana 2012 ni 2012 ni berlaku ketika perang, ada satu serangan Israel ke atas Gaza, Dan kita melihat selepas itu ada satu perhimpunan PBB, ketika perhimpunan PBB ke tahun tu, Mahmud Abbas, Presiden Palestin telah meminta di PBB untuk negara Palestin diiktiraf. So diminta pengiktirafan daripada rakyat antarabangsa supaya mengiktiraf perlembahan negara Palestin. So daripada General Assembly ni lebih daripada 130 negara menyokong penubuhan negara Palestin. Maksudnya they are supporting two-state solution lah. Regardless what happened on the ground. So meaning the world are moving towards recognizing Palestine. So apa yang dibuat oleh Israel di West Bank, di East Jerusalem, di Gaza tidak feasible, tidak boleh diteruskan lagi. So itu maksud dia. Dan memang ada banyak laporan daripada Bank Dunia, daripada even RAND Corporation RAND Corporation ni memang selalu buat report juga kan. So mereka memang mengatakan bahawa tak feasible lah, tak boleh diteruskan. Kalau diteruskan juga, dia akan menyebabkan masalah lebih besar kepada Israel, iaitu at the moment orang dah mula bercakap tentang not two-state solution but one-state solution. So meaning the whole state of Palestine will become a unified country yang perlu diiktiraf hak keluarganya, sama ada Yahudi ataupun Arab Palestin. So itu actually yang sangat merisaukan Zionis pada hari ini, sebab kalau ini berlaku mereka akan hilang identiti negara Yahudi yang mereka inginkan, negara majoriti Yahudi untuk orang Yahudi. Sebab kalau mereka hari ini menerima penyelesaian ini, apa yang berlaku adalah majoriti sekarang ni di the whole historic Palestine, di West Bank, di Israel itself, di Gaza, di East Jerusalem, jumlah population Arab Palestin lebih ramai sekarang dan melebihi penduduk Yahudi di Israel. So ini actually will make them a minority, majority. Ini tak campur lagi pelarian Palestin yang mungkin kalau dibenarkan balik masuk ke Palestin yang akan menyebabkan immediately the state of Jewish dekat Israel itu akan eliminated lah. So memang pendapat ini is consistent with the fact on the ground, dan bahkan kalau tengok Syekh Ahmad Yassin dia punya tarikh lain lah. Syekh Ahmad Yassin sebut 2027. Itu sebab pandangan dia lain, pandangan dia sudut dia mengambil penubuhan Hamas tahun 1987 tu, diletakkan wawasan after 40 years. After 40 years, Palestine will be free. So itu pandangan dia lah. Dan lagi kalau siapa nak baca pandangan, ada yang menulis tentang tentang ramalan bila Palestin akan dibebaskan. Ada yang buat guna calculation daripada daripada Al-Quran, ayat Al-Quran yang menjangkakan tentang kemusnahan orang Yahudi. So mereka buat perkiraan di situ, adalah dia kata 2023. Ada satu buku yang agak menarik nak baca tapi dia lebih kepada ramalan je lah. Dia not you want to subscribe to it or not, itu pulanglah kepada pembaca tapi they are there. So meaning facts on the ground are telling us that Israel punya occupation are not feasible, tak boleh bertahan lama.
Okey, menarik tu ya. Maksudnya walaupun kalau kita tengok dari segi pendapat Kissinger itu dibuat secara informal, tapi ada beberapa tarikh-tarikh lain 2023, 2027, semuanya anda rasa memang tak jauh lah dari sekarang kan. So within the next 10 years insyaAllah. So banyak pendapat tu menunjuk kepada harap-harapnya pembebasan Palestin tu akan berlaku dengan cepatlah insyaAllah. Okey, soalan seterusnya Khalid. Tadi Anak Hassan tak ada sebut secara general lah kan, tentang one state solution, di mana keseluruhan rakyat Palestin dan Israel ini berada di bawah satu entiti bernama Israel yang dikhawatiri. Macam mana pula dengan two state solution yang cuba dipelopori oleh US pada ketika ini?
Okay, two state solution yang dipelopori oleh US ketika ini merupakan kalau mengikut analisis pada hari ini mengatakan ia adalah sebenarnya cubaan untuk melengah-lengahkan projek Zionis lah untuk mengambil sebanyak mungkin tanah dan wilayah di Palestin. So actually two state solution ni is an old idea, to resolve the conflict between Jewish and Arab Palestine di Palestin lah. So in fact the first one that proposed the two state solution adalah British sendirilah ketika penjajahan di Palestin. So in fact the first proposal ni tahun 1937 ketika berlakunya kebangkitan Arab Palestin yang besar-besaran selepas kematian kesyahidan Sheikh Zine Al-Qassam. So Arab Palestin bangkit. So British ketika itu nak mengekang kebangkitan ini, dia propose two state solution. So lagi orang Palestin marah lah. So akhirnya dia at the end 1939 British terpaksa reject two state solution ni. So dia terima one state solution. Meaning giving the independence to Palestine lah. But berlaku perang dunia kedua dan gagal dilaksanakan. Sampailah PBB British serahkan isu ini, permasalahan ini kepada PBB. Dan PBB buat perkara yang sama, propose two state solution melalui resolusi PBB 181 1947. So ini yang actually yang digunakan oleh Zionis ketika itu untuk declare negara dia. So dia ambil teritori yang mana telah diperuntukkan oleh PBB dan berlaku perang, dan lepas perang mereka dapat rampas lebih banyak tanah pula. So ini yang sekarang yang berlaku. Negara haram Israel pada hari ini tertegak di atas satu resolusi PBB yang tidak actually tidak mengiktiraf self-determination, right to self-determination of Palestinian. Kemudian berlaku perang dan Israel dapat rampas lagi banyak wilayah. So tinggal hari ini oleh Palestin West Bank dengan Gaza. Ini yang hari ini disebut sebagai perlu diterima kompromis oleh rakyat Palestin sebagai negara mereka. West Bank, East Jerusalem dengan Gaza. Yang mana wilayah ni semuanya telah dirampas oleh Israel pada perang 1967. So apa yang dipropos oleh international, Israel withdraw daripada wilayah yang dirampas ketika perang 1967 dan benarkan wilayah ini diiktiraf sebagai negara Palestin. But penyelesaian ini sebenarnya ditolak oleh banyak rakyat Palestin. Kita melihat bagaimana perjanjian Oslo yang mengiktiraf two state solution ini ditolak oleh Hamas, Islamic Jihad, banyak-banyak grup-grup yang lain, yang mana mereka katakan benda ini tak sepatutnya berlaku lah. Seluruh tanah ni sepatutnya dikembalikan kepada rakyat Palestin disebabkan apa yang dibuat Zionis itu adalah penjajahan, colonialism since the establishment lah. So sebab itu bila kita melihat trend di Palestin, Oslo ni bila dia gagal, naik kebangkitan yang kedua, Intifada yang kedua tahun 2000, dan lepas habis Intifada yang kedua berlaku pilihan di Palestin yang menangnya Hamas. So we are looking at a trend whereby Palestinian rejected two state solution secara keseluruhannya. In fact Abbas hari ini, Mahmud Abbas dan Fatah dan PLO yang masih lagi bertahan pada hari ini, mereka hanya mampu bertahan disebabkan mendapat sokongan daripada US, Eropah dan sebagainya. Dan Eropah sebenarnya they don't care too much actually about Palestin. Lebih dia just sebut two state solution, but in fact two state solution ni dah tak viable lagi dah. Banyak orang sebut since 2008, 2007 lagi orang kata two state solution ni tak viable selepas gagalnya Oslo dan berlakunya Intifada yang kedua. So on the ground aktivis dah mula bergerak sejak 10 tahun yang lalu menggerakkan idea untuk support Palestinian wholly, maksudnya bukan setakat di West Bank, Gaza, tapi termasuk Palestinian dalam Israel sendiri, yang mana dia are fighting towards ending of colonialism, ending of occupation and ending of apartheid. Apartheid maksudnya all the policy by Israel regime, sama ada di West Bank, Gaza ataupun in fact dalam historik Palestin ataupun dalam Israel sendiri, yang mana mendiskriminasi rakyat Palestin dan mereka perlu iktiraf keseluruhan hak rakyat Palestin yang berada dalam wilayah tersebut sekurang-kurangnya. Of course yang hak untuk pelarian balik pun satu perkara yang perlu diperjuangkan jugalah. So kalau ini diiktiraf semuanya di bawah kerangka arunan antarabangsa sepatutnya dan resolusi PBB, ini akan menatijahkan one state solution. So the whole state, one state, a democratic state for all its inhabitants lah. So ini yang actually yang sangat membimbangkan Zionis seperti mana yang saya sebut awal tadi lah. Dia akan menghancurkan idea penubuhan sebuah negara untuk orang majoriti Yahudi di Palestin.
Okey. Jadi macam mana pula tentang pendirian kerajaan Hamas sekarang yang berada di Gaza?
Okey, Hamas ada keluarkan satu dokumen politik dia yang baru tentang polisi dia tahun 2017. So boleh baca tentang dokumen ini, yang dalamnya asasnya mereka jelas menunjukkan meletakkan bahawa Palestin ada hak ke atas seluruh wilayah Palestin, termasuklah Israel pada hari ini. So daripada from the east of Jordan River tu sampailah, from the west part of Jordan River sampailah kepada Laut Mediterranean, rakyat Palestin ada hak ke atasnya. So Hamas ketika hari ini mereka bersedia untuk kompromis menerima penubuhan negara Palestin untuk sementara waktu di kawasan yang hari ini disebut sebagai two state solution, maksudnya negara Palestin di wilayah West Bank, East Jerusalem dengan Gaza. Yang memang menjadi sebahagian two state solution punya cadangan lah. So mereka bersedia untuk kompromis terima bukan sebab it will end there, no. Mereka terima sebagai temporary solution at the moment. Untuk apa? Untuk tujuan utama dia untuk unified the Palestinian Front. Palestin hari ini mereka kan bertelagah kan. Hamas dan sebagian besar inginkan the whole Palestine, tuntut the whole Palestine. Tapi Fatah sedia kompromis untuk hanya terima West Bank, East Jerusalem dengan Gaza sebagai tanah negara Palestin. So it's a big compromise yang mana tak banyak rakyat Palestin sedia terima. Tapi Hamas sedia kompromis at the moment as a temporary solution untuk unified the Palestinian Front. Okay, tapi inilah yang menyebabkan ada orang yang kata of course Zainal akan tuduh Hamas ni berpura-pura lah kata nak terima solution, actually nak the whole Palestine. So ini yang menimbulkan pertikaian lah. Tapi sebenarnya kita kena jelas Hamas actually they are fighting for a rights yang mana is consistent with the international punya resolution dan ni sebenarnya. Cuma itulah yang menjadikan masalahnya sebab tak ada political will dan tidak ada pressure daripada antarabangsa untuk betul-betul mengiktiraf hak rakyat Palestin lah. So Hamas, they don't accept the solution per se, but they accept it as a compromise untuk unify the Palestinian punya front.
Okey, menarik. Anda sendiri tak mengetahulah kan tentang pendirian kerajaan Hamas tu. Kita ada satu soalan di Facebook page yang highlightkan daripada saudari Syifa Zamiran. Soalannya, apakah rules yang digunakan oleh Israel untuk justify pengusiran penduduk di Sheikh Jarrah dan di kawasan Silwan?
Okay. Israel lepas dia rampas West Bank dan East Jerusalem tahun selepas perang 1967, mereka telah membuat undang-undang di Israel sendiri yang membenarkan rakyat Israel, orang Yahudi yang mereka kata mereka pernah ada properties di kawasan East Jerusalem ataupun West Bank untuk menuntut semula hak mereka ini. So mereka buat satu undang-undang lepas mereka rampas East Jerusalem supaya orang Israel ada hak untuk tuntut hak mereka di kawasan yang sebelum ini di bawah rakyat Palestin lah. So mereka gunakan undang-undang ni untuk fight di mahkamah untuk tuntut hak mereka. Mereka ambil gunalah geran mereka yang lama ke apa sebagainya. Bahkan ada yang cuba eksploitasi lah undang-undang ni dengan beli tanah di East Jerusalem melalui broker yang lain yang menjual tanah. Mereka kata broker ni mereka orang Arab juga. Mereka beli daripada orang Palestin supaya orang Palestin dapat sedikit duit untuk mereka survive kan. Kemudian orang Palestin ingat kan mereka akan sewa di situ, pemiliknya orang Arab. Tapi orang Arab kemudian mereka jual kepada kumpulan-kumpulan ekstremis Yahudi yang mana they want to fight for the properties dekat Israel lah. So mereka dapat pembelian ini dan mereka kata okey sekarang ni saya dah jadi pemilik kepada tanah ini. Saya beri peluang kepada kamu untuk sewa itu, tak ada masalah. Tapi at the moment sekarang ni dah ramai kumpulan-kumpulan ekstremis Yahudi yang mana nak ambil alih kawasan di East Jerusalem ni, mereka beli pula tanah ni daripada company. So company ni pula mereka sekarang ni tuntut lah. Lepas tu hari ni kita lihat di sejarah ni banyak kumpulan ekstremis yang mana di belakang mereka ada a big organisation yang pemilik kepada tanah ini lah, dia katakan tadi. Dan mereka ini membawa ekstremis Yahudi daripada Eropah, daripada US untuk tinggal kat situ. Sponsored everything. Rumah tu tak payah bayar. Israel pun dia ada polisi siapa yang duduk dekat kawasan East Jerusalem ni mereka akan dapat kebanyakan dapat macam bantuan kerajaan lah untuk kekal kat situ. Tanpa tak perlu bekerja pun. You can live there freely, sponsored by a lot of people, a lot of organisation dalam rangka untuk mengusir keluar rakyat Palestin daripada kawasan. So itu yang digunakan oleh Israel pada hari ini untuk ambil kawasan di Sheikh Jarrah, di Silwan, di sekitar yang melingkungi Masjid Al-Aqsa. So ini rancangan mereka lah. Yang in fact tu yang ada banyak peguam di rakyat Palestin ni hari ni dia fight for this lah. Terpaksa fight di mahkamah Israel walaupun sepatutnya tak boleh, tak legit sebenarnya, tapi disebabkan Israel enforce begitu, mereka terpaksa fight di mahkamah Israel. Mereka lantik lawyer, dan lawyer ni antaranya telah kemukakan dokumen-dokumen di zaman Khilafah Uthmaniyah yang mana menunjukkan bahawa tanah tu sepatutnya tidak boleh dijual beli disebabkan ada perjanjian antara Ottoman Empire dengan penduduk di situ, kemudian antara Jordan dengan Israel ketika Israel ambil West Bank daripada Jordan lepas perang 67. Kemudian ada perjanjian dengan UNRWA, United Nations Relief Work Agency, yang mana mereka ini yang menjaga kebajikan pelarian Palestin. Dekat sejarah ni sebenarnya yang datang tu adalah pelarian Palestin. So PBB lah actually yang give the properties dengan perjanjian antara Jordan dengan UNRWA untuk berikan mereka penempatan. So sebenarnya semua yang dibuat oleh Zionist selepas itu adalah benda yang actually bertentangan dengan undang-undang yang telah ada lah, ataupun perjanjian yang telah ada. So they violate everything, tapi sebabkan mereka nak juga tanah tersebut, so mereka gunakan the law in the Israel punya negara. Walaupun dia violate international law, international resolution, mereka tak kisahlah. Mereka nak juga kawasan tersebut.
Okey, jadi maksudnya berdasarkan perjanjian asal Kerajaan Ottoman Turki dengan penduduk asal di kawasan tu memang illegal lah sebenarnya movement.
Sebenarnya legal, betul.
Okey, tadi anda ada sebut tentang kalau kita campur semua pelarian asal Palestin yang berada di luar kawasan Palestinian Territory sekarang ni, ada jutaan kalau tak silap, memang akan membimbangkanlah Israel kan kalau dibina satu negara di bawah satu entiti. Adakah diorang punya hak untuk pulang semula pada bila masa?
Okey, hak untuk pelarian pulang ke Palestin semula ni dalam resolusi PBB 1949, yang mana hak ni tak pernah digugurkan, tak pernah dimansuhkan. So ia hak yang masih lagi terpelihara sampai hari ni. So a lot of people actually fighting for this. In fact, kalau siapa yang nak berminat tentang perjuangan untuk bawa semula pelarian Palestin pulang ni, boleh baca ada satu dokumen ataupun buku yang mana dibukukan oleh Profesor Dr. Salman Abu Sittah. Salman Abu Sittah, dia orang Palestin, pelarian Palestin, duduk kat UK, professor in history and everything. So dia ni telah buat satu rangka, satu plan macam mana actually nak balikkan semula pelarian Palestin ni ke tempat mereka. Dia ada mapping bagaimana pergerakan ni boleh berlaku, perpindahan ni boleh berlaku dan sebagainya. In fact he has a very clear proposal untuk benarkan hak ni berlaku. Tapi sebabkan tidak ada mereka antarabangsa untuk menyelesaikan isu ni. Sebab bila berlakunya compromise untuk two state solution and peace process, seluruh antarabangsa menyerahkan hak ni kepada peace process tersebut. Peace process ni maksudnya seluruh pertikaian antara orang-orang Israel dengan orang-orang Arab Palestin, mereka perlu selesaikan antara sesama mereka melalui perundingan. Mereka perlu berunding. So semua orang perlu iktiraf dan terima rundingan mereka ini, itulah keputusannya. Sebab mereka yang bergaduh, mereka yang perlu rundingkan dan selesaikan. Tapi masalahnya we are facing situation yang mana perundingan yang berlaku di antara satu kuasa yang sangat besar dia punya kuasa dengan satu lagi pihak yang mana yang sangat kecil dan sangat susah nak pertahankan hak mereka. So selalunya akan berlaku adalah Israel akan sentiasa dapat apa yang mereka nak. So mereka tak dapat, mereka akan stalling all the peace process sampai hari ini tak berlaku apa-apa. So meaning itulah actually yang merencatkan hak untuk mereka kembali. Hak ni tak pernah dimansuhkan dan masih diperjuangkanlah oleh banyak pihak untuk mereka kembali. So mereka masih ada hak, melainkan mereka sendiri yang menggugurkan hak ini. So sebab itu hari ni kalau siapa membaca tentang Trump punya proposal sebenarnya deal of the century, dia ada part yang cerita pasal refugees. Antara yang dibuat adalah dia nak mudahkan perkiraan ni, dia mansuhkan semua refugees yang mana yang terima bantuan melalui UNRWA yang memang diwujudkan khusus untuk bantu pelarian Palestin. Dia mansuhkan semua yang mana pelarian yang bergenerasi. UNRWA terima anak pinak. Maksudnya kalau ayahnya dulu pelarian, kemudian anaknya, kemudian cucunya, semuanya dikira sebagai pelarian. Okay. Tapi Trump ni nak terima yang awal, yang first je, the first generation saja yang jadi pelarian ketika perang. So numbers tu of course is very low. It's less than sekarang sebab ramai dah meninggal dunia kan. Dah lama, dah tua. So mereka ini accounted about I think 100,000 saja. So this Trump sedia untuk terima. Trump berjayalah untuk persuade Israel untuk terima mereka masuk ke Palestin. But this number is very insignificant banding yang lebih daripada 6-7 juta kat luar. So in fact ada yang mereka cuba untuk naturalizekan pelarian Palestin yang duduk kat Lebanon, kat Jordan ni, cuba dinaturalizekan supaya jadi sebahagian daripada warga Jordan, warga Lebanon, tu tak perlu pindah. So ini antara projek yang dibuat oleh Trump lah untuk mudahkan, untuk hilangkan, untuk gugurkan hak pelarian Palestin untuk kembali ke Palestin. So memang tidak ada political will lah untuk berikan hak ni berlaku. So itu yang menyebabkan kita tak terjadilah pada hari ini.
Saya rasa memang sangat tak adil lah kalau kita tengok, sebab rakyat asal kawasan tu yang memang berhak untuk pulang dinafikan hak dia, sedangkan Israel sedang actively recruiting kan orang Yahudi dari Eropah.
Itu banyak yang aktivis hak asasi manusia pertikaikan kenapa a Jew, regardless of where they are coming from, they have the right to return to Israel. But the Palestinian refugees who really ada properties kat Israel, ada kat Palestin, ada masih simpan kunci-kunci di kawasan rumah mereka ni tak dimenangkan balik. So it's very contradict lah. So itu yang antara point yang digunakan oleh aktivis antarabangsa lah, menunjukkan berlakunya dipanggil apartheid in terms of law, dari sudut tidak ada hak yang sama rata di antara penduduk di Palestin. Orang Yahudi boleh balik, boleh datang semula, tak kira sama mereka ni tak pernah terbukti pun ada keturunan mereka duduk kat Palestin. As long as they are Jewish, they have the right to return to Israel. It's very ridiculous lah. Okay, soalan seterusnya, kita pindah sedikit daripada latar belakang Palestin tu ke Malaysia. Dan agak menarik soalan Nasir. Kenapa dan mungkin kenapa ada beberapa NGO yang memperjuangkan isu yang sama di Malaysia, dan kenapa tidak di bawah satu payung yang sama? Okay. Soalan ini kita jawab. It's quite funny because we can see a lot of we can have a lot of badan dan syarikat dan sebagainya untuk pelbagai perkara, tapi dalam isu ni kenapa kita kata tak boleh ada banyak NGO lah. But naturally kebanyakan NGO yang tubuhkan bantuan nak ke Palestin ni, kebanyakannya mereka ada experience sendiri. So mereka ada experience personal pergi ke Palestin, dan ada kawan orang Palestin nak support mereka, so mereka buat NGO. Ada yang buat full time, ada yang buat part time, ada yang meaning maksudnya mereka ada latar belakang lah kepada perubahan mereka. Dan pastinya semua ni manusia dia we try as much as possible to support kan. So mereka kita buat inisiatif kita, tapi kemudian bila kita buat dapat tahu actually ada orang lain dah buat juga kan. Dan ada orang lain juga yang have the same project, and so what happened is we collaborate together. So that's what happened after that. Maksudnya memang ada banyak NGO di Malaysia berdasarkan pengalaman peribadi, connection peribadi dan sebagainya. Kemudian selepas itu ada juga usaha untuk memayung, untuk menyatukan di bawahnya. So saya sendiri terlibat dalam sekretariat Chef Al-Quds Malaysia yang mana kita gabungkan semua NGO ni di bawah satu payung, kita gerakkan inisiatif kita lah. Cuma yang sebahagian ni ada yang full time, ada yang bukan full time. So kebanyakan yang full time ni actually yang lebih agresif lah dari sudut menggerakkan sebarang inisiatif dan pastinya masing-masing kita all out lah, kita bantu, dan kita yang penting lah kita doakan supaya regardless of how many we are, actually kita sebenarnya tak mampu untuk support keseluruhan pun, walaupun kita ramai sebenarnya. Knowing that the needs are more in Palestine, so lagi banyak orang berusaha, lagi banyak networking yang dibuat. Of course kalau satu organisasi saja mungkin susah nak try penetrate semua kan. So kalau lagi banyak jaringan, lagi banyak kita boleh bantu rakyat Palestin lah. So I hope kita tak pertikailah kenapa banyak lagi banyak lagi bagus sebenarnya, lagi meriah untuk kita bantu. Cuma janganlah sampai jadi competition yang menjatuh-jatuhkan, itu yang actually yang cause problem sebenarnya kan. Biar ramai, keperluan banyak sebenarnya, kita raikan semuanya dan kita bantulah sama-sama insyaAllah.
Saya sebenarnya setujulah, maksudnya ada banyak option tu, lebih banyak ruang untuk kita kira pilih yang mana yang sesuai dengan diri sendiri.
Lagi banyak rakyat Malaysia nak pergi Palestin sebenarnya. Semua nak minta pergi misi Palestin. Kalau satu NGO je tak mampu nak pergi dah. Kalau ramai tu dia boleh koordinate sama-sama mereka lah. InsyaAllah.
Okay, soalan seterusnya dari segi MyCare sendiri di Malaysia, macam mana sumbangan tu disalurkan ke rakyat Palestin yang memerlukan?
Okay, so MyCare kita ada office di Gaza, full office di Gaza sejak tahun 2013, operated by our 3 workers lah, employees kat sana yang buat kerja full time throughout the year. So kita ada projek throughout the year, ada yang projek bermusim, ada yang projek yang berterusan. So kita berdaftar di Palestin, kita ada bank account. So kita memang through our bank account lah untuk uruskan. There are certain circumstances yang mana duit kita tak lepas because of macam-macam perkara lah kan. Sebab mereka buat banyak background check untuk duitnya pergi kepada siapa, what's the purpose, everything semua. So kadang-kadang kita gunakan channel lain lah untuk sampaikan. Ada yang kita direct kepada penerima. Maksudnya kalau kita kerjasama dengan hospital contohnya atau hospital di Gaza untuk bantu mereka kos kita tanja pesakit-pesakit yang orang daripada kalangan asnaf yang mana perlukan rawatan. So kalau tak boleh through account kita kemudian bawa kat dia, kita direct kepada account mereka. Ada juga cara macam tu. Ada yang guna money transfer, money agent dan sebagainya lah. Semacam-macam perkara yang kita gunakan lah. So kita di Malaysia alhamdulillah kita bukan setakat terima sumbangan daripada rakyat Malaysia saja. Daripada Australia pun ada, daripada UK pun ada yang through kita sebab kita ada office di Gaza. So itu yang beri kita sedikit kelebihan lah untuk kita bantu. So rakyat Palestin ni kita bantu bukan setakat di Gaza saja, di West Bank pun ada, di East Jerusalem pun ada. Tapi ini kita tak ada akses direct. So kita gunakan rakan sahabat kita yang ada akses di sana lah. Kebanyakannya mereka base di Turki. So mereka ni ada akses sebab Turki ni dia ada satu perjanjian dengan Israel yang hari ini masih lagi kekal, yang mana mereka ni ada akses kepada West Bank yang mana ada tinggalan-tinggalan zaman Osmaniyah. So mereka gunakan channel ini untuk bantu. So yang Palestin kadang-kadang ada yang duduk kawasan yang mana ada historical remnants of Turkish ni. So mereka di kawasan inilah yang dalam rangka Turki untuk memelihara historical punya site ni, dibantu juga orang sekitarnya yang mana ada orang Arab Palestin dan sebagainya lah. So they use that as a vehicle lah untuk cuba masuk dan bantu. Dan Turki ada hubungan diplomatik dengan Israel kan. So mereka gunakannya lah sehabis mungkin untuk masuk dan establish yang mereka punya organisasi di kawasan West Bank lah. Kemudian kita bantu juga rakyat Palestin pelarian di Lebanon, di Jordan, di Malaysia pun ada yang belajar di Malaysia. So we do all level lah, bukan setakat di Gaza saja, tapi all level. Dan sumbangan tu berterusan lah, alhamdulillah sejak 2010 sampai hari ini.
Alhamdulillah. Saya rasa mungkin sejak jatuhnya kerajaan Presiden Morsi di Mesir, agak sukar sedikit untuk sumbangan itu sampai kan. Tapi alhamdulillah macam mana pun adalah beberapa channel-channel lain yang boleh
di office tahun 2013. So kita dah ada office sejak 2013. So bila Morsi jatuh 2013 juga sebenarnya. So we already have an office lah ketika itu. So alhamdulillah it make it a lot of easy lah untuk kita untuk uruskan bantuan yang disampaikan.
Okay. Okay, soalan seterusnya. Kadang-kadang nampak macam seolah-olahnya macam sia-sia usaha-usaha yang kita buat untuk bantu semula pembinaan Palestin kan. So, Israel kemudian datang dan sebenarnya musnahkan fasiliti-fasiliti yang dibuat. Macam mana sebenarnya attitude yang perlu kita adalah rasa sebagai orang-orang yang menyumbang untuk pembinaan semula Palestin ni? Okay.
Kita percaya bahawa setiap ringgit, setiap sen yang kita sumbangkan kepada Palestin itu sumbangan kepada jalan Allah, Allah akan terima kan keseluruhannya kan. Whatever we give, Allah akan terima. As long as kita ikhlas lah. So once kita dah bagi, kemudian katakanlah dirampas ataupun dimusnahkan oleh Israel, pahalanya tetap kita dapat. So kita teruskan lagi lah. dia teruskan lagi. So attitude rakyat Palestin dia memang they are ready to sacrifice for the sake of their nation and independence lah. So kita pun kena ada attitude yang sama lah, sebab ini adalah perjuangan. Dia memang akan ada banyak halangan lah. Of course kita berdepan lah dengan Zionis yang mana pemikiran mereka ni very aggressive, very ekstrim, membunuh anak-anak dan wanita pun dikatakan sebagai legitimate because Hamas guna dia sebagai human shield. Mereka all the bangunan-bangunan dikatakan tak boleh serang sebenarnya. Dalam perang tak boleh serang sekolah, tak boleh serang tempat ibadah, tapi mereka serang juga sebagai kata itu Hamas jadikan tempat untuk mereka base untuk mereka hantar lancar roket dan sebagainya. So kita berdepan dengan musuh yang mana dia quite ekstrim lah dari sudut dia punya measures untuk kalahkan kita. So kita kena bertahan lah, kita kena istiqamah lah, kena bertahan dan teruskan perjuangan ni, sebab kita percaya whatever we give, insyaAllah Allah akan terima. Lagi banyak kita bagi, insyaAllah lagi banyak kita dapat. So teruskan insyaAllah.
Okey, baik. Okay, soalan kontroversi. Tadi kita bincang tentang ada perbezaan pendirian Fatah dan Hamas pada ketika ni. Tapi adakah mungkin ada perbezaan pendapat juga dalam Hamas sendiri di antara mungkin ada camp ataupun tidak kan, antara Khalid Mishal dan juga Ismail?
Okay. In politics benda tu natural berlaku bila ada pihak-pihak yang bertentangan lah kan, dari sudut nak dapat power and control of the organization lah. So actually simple saja sebenarnya. Khalid Mishal dia tidak berada di dalam Palestin, dia duduk di luar. And in fact daripada awal lagi dia memang duduk di luar lah, sejak dia ibu bapa dia di hijrah keluar disebabkan apa yang berlaku di West Bank. So dia memang dah lama, sejak dia kecil lagi dia duduk kat luar. Tapi dia memang rapatlah dengan Hamas, dengan Ikhwan, dan dia bahkan dia beri kepercayaan antara selepas Syekh Yasin syahid, Abdul Aziz Al-Zatisir syahid, berpindah kepimpinan tu di luar, sebab mereka melihat kalau berada di dalam mereka akan serang, akan kena assassination by Zionis lah. So mereka hantar keluar ke Khalid Mishal. So Khalid Mishal dilantik sebagai pengganti. So dia ni berada di luar dan di bawah protection international, dan dia memang diberi pelindungan yang sangat agak tinggi lah, sebab selepas assassination attempt dia pada tahun 1997, so dia agak nampak jadi high profile lah. So sesuai untuk menaikkan Palestin punya isu lah. Dan dia pernah pergilah ke dunia, termasuk kat Malaysia pun beberapa kali dia datang. Kemudian moving forward sekarang ni orang dah mulai lihat kepada dalam, mulai ke dalam. So Ismail Haniyeh ni dia antara orang yang dari dalam, memang bersama dengan Syekh Yasin awal lagi ketika perubahan Hamas dan sebagainya, sampailah masuk pilihan raya dan dia lead the government of Hamas. Sampailah hari ini dia berikan kepercayaan untuk dia pula untuk lead from inside. Yang mana tak seperti sebelum ini, semula mudah untuk Israel bunuh. Hari ini security yang menjadi di-create oleh Hamas untuk melindungi pemimpin mereka sangat dahsyat lah. So lihat baru ni dalam konflik baru ni, masa perang tak nampak pemimpin Hamas keluar statement tapi tak tahu kat mana kan. Kemudian bila lepas habis berlaku kejadian satu, mereka keluar. Tadi yang dapat highlight tu adalah Yahya Sinwar lah. Yahya Sinwar ni ketua untuk Hamas di Palestin, dalam internal Palestin. Ismail Haniyeh the whole, inside and outside. So at the moment memanglah sepatutnya ada pemilihan semula pemimpin Hamas tahun ini, tapi ditunda. So berlaku setiap 4 tahun saja, 2017, sekarang ni 2021. Tapi at least Hamas dia ada election. Dan bila berlaku election, kita terima, orang boleh terima, mereka mengiktiraf dan menerima keputusan election ini. Berbanding dengan tempat lain lah kan, mereka ada election tapi kebanyakannya yang election yang telah di hijack lah kan dan sebagainya. Kurang-kurangnya Hamas dia ada election dan ditunjukkan kepada dunia bahawa ada election, dipilih secara demokratik dan mereka iktiraf keputusan tersebut. So sebelum ni Khalid Mishal actually dia antara selain sebab dia kalah, sebab term dia dah habis. So mereka tukarlah kan. So Ismail ni pun kalau lepas dia ada term dia, tak salah saya tak ingat berapa dia yang terbaru ni, mungkin 2 term kot ataupun 3 term. Selepas habis term kena tukar. So actually they are very democratic. So that's actually guided lah. Mereka ni kalau berlaku persaingan dalam internal tu, ada guide sikit, ada kawalan dalam pertubuhan tersebut, insyaAllah.
Jadi tak benarlah tuduhan yang mengatakan Hamas ni adalah organisasi teroris yang tak sebenarnya tak mengamalkan demokrasi dan sebagainya kan. So memang diorang dipilih secara legitimate by rakyat Palestin sendiri yang memang mahukan suara diorang diwakil oleh Hamas. Okay. Mungkin sedikit insight into the enemy's camp kan, orang kata. Baru-baru ni pilihan raya Israel menunjukkan bahawa Netanyahu mungkin akan berakhir dia punya term as a prime minister. Apakah yang akan dibawa oleh keputusan pilihan raya baru-baru ini terhadap masa depan konflik Palestin ini?
Okey. Pilihan raya Israel baru-baru ni dan beberapa kali sebelum ini telah menyebabkan Netanyahu tak dapat jadi kerajaan. Sebab dia tak berjaya bentuk coalition untuk dia bentuk kerajaan lah. So di Israel ni dia punya sistem pilihan raya menyebabkan tidak pernah ada dalam sejarah mereka satu parti berjaya dapat simple majority. Mereka perlu create gabungan lah untuk bentuk kerajaan. So yang terbaru Netanyahu gagal bentuk kerajaan sejak pilihan raya tahun 2019. So dah 4 kali pilihan raya. Ini pilihan raya yang terbaru ni yang pilihan raya keempat lah. Dia gagal bentuk kerajaan. Tahun lepas dia buat kerajaan sekejap dengan Benny Gantz, tapi gagal, tak bertahan lama. Buat pilihan sekali lagi dia tak dapat sokongan juga lah. So hari ini kumpulan parti-parti yang cuba nak mengganti kerajaan Netanyahu ni adalah gabungan banyak parti lah. Dia ada 8 parti. Majoriti parti Zionis, ada parti daripada golongan kiri, ada parti daripada Arab. Satu parti daripada Arab lah, Arab Palestin di Israel. So mereka ni actually very loose, very fragile coalition. Bentuk kerajaan pun kelebihan 1 kursi saja. Dan mereka ini unified by satu je tujuan dia, nak jatuhkan Netanyahu. Tu je. Mereka ni semuanya kebanyakannya pernah berada di bawah kerajaan Netanyahu, dia tahu perangai Netanyahu. Tapi dia nak hentikanlah rejim Netanyahu ni sebab ada banyak pertikaian politik lah antara mereka ya. So apa yang gambaran yang sebenarnya adalah tidak ada masalah politik di Israel, yang mana we can take advantage untuk kita sedar bahawa Israel ini is a regime. Apa yang saya buat hari ini, dia hanya mampu bertahan disebabkan regime ini. If we manage to kalahkan, menjatuhkan regime ini, kita akan ada jalan lah untuk kita bebaskan Palestin. So regime Zionis ni perlu dijatuhkan. So hari ini kita melihat mereka hari ini terpaksa pinjam sokongan daripada Arab Israel sendiri untuk mereka bentuk kerajaan. So that mean dia are fragile. Memang dalam antara mereka ada perpecahan. Kan? So dalam Quran pun kita being told by Allah SWT tentang bagaimana musuh-musuh Islam ni, mereka ni dah hati mereka ni banyak, mereka actually bercerai-berai. Mereka ada perpecahan di kalangan mereka. Tapi mereka disatukan sebab nak serang Islam. Itu je. If we manage to untuk gunakan pengetahuan ini untuk kita kalahkan mereka, kita boleh gunakan. So moving forward, status quo akan berterusan lagi sebab Israel masih lagi kerajaan yang mana sama je, tak sama ada Netanyahu ke bukan Netanyahu, mereka masih lagi mengekalkan idea untuk kuasai Palestin. But there are cracks, ada retak-retak di sana yang kita boleh gunakan untuk kita perjuangkan kita punya ni lah. So it's a good thing Netanyahu jatuh, but it's not the end of the story lah. So we need to keep fighting supaya retak-retak yang berlaku di antara Zionis ni kita boleh manfaatkan untuk kita perjuangkan kita punya cause lah, insyaAllah. So kelikukan hari ni keputusannya. Kalau siapa nak follow, bolehlah follow hari ni. Undian di Knesset tentang sama ada berlaku pertukuran kerajaan ataupun tidak, insyaAllah.
Oh, okey. Baik, rasa itulah dia tidak bermakna Netanyahu turun tu Israel akan jadi Palestine friendly kan, tapi retak-retak antara dia sama dia orang tu harap-harapnya akan membantutkanlah kesatuan di antara dia orang kan. Muka lebih banyak mata lah rasa di peringkat international. Alhamdulillah. Okey. Kita sampai kepada soalan yang terakhir. tadi kita bincang tentang pilihan raya di Israel, macam mana partisipasi dan juga peranan yang dimainkan oleh orang-orang Arab yang berada dalam lingkungan peta Israel tu dalam pilihan raya? Adakah diorang berikan hak yang sama untuk mengundi ataupun adakah suara diorang didengari? Macam mana situasi dia?
Okey, orang Arab Palestin di Israel, mereka ini diberikan hak untuk mengundi, memilih orang-orang mereka. Dan di Israel ni dia sistem dia pilihan raya dia berasal dia guna open list, dia guna closed list. Dia dia guna percentage, apa panggil, proportional representation. So mana-mana komuniti yang berjaya kumpul sokongan kepada mana-mana calon yang mana lepas threshold dia 3.5%, dia akan dapat jadi calon lah, dapat kursi lah. So dia bukan macam di Malaysia yang mana gunakan first past post yang mana ada parlimen kan, ada pecahan-pecahan. Dia tak ada kawasan. Dia hanya list sokong parti tersebut, lepas threshold dia akan dapat kursi lah. So Arab Palestin memang dah diberikan hak untuk mengundi, cuma ada percanggahan di pendapat di kalangan orang Arab Palestin di Israel sama ada mereka nak join politik ataupun tidak. So at the moment yang dalam pilihan raya sekarang ni pun jumlah yang mengundi sebenarnya dari kalangan Arab Palestin tak sampai 50% sebenarnya. So majoriti masih lagi menolak untuk join pilihan raya. So memang ni ada kajian lah yang menunjukkan bahawa actually belum ramai lagi orang Arab Palestin yang di dalam Israel yang nak join parti politik sebab dia rasa kalau mereka join ibarat mereka dah iktiraf Israel. They don't want to recognize Israel. Mereka ada pemilihan, mereka politik ni mereka sekadar join untuk pemilihan lokal je, local council sahaja, tidak kepada parti politik yang boleh membentuk negara lah. So tapi sebahagian ada yang sebab tu yang banyak mempelopori politik di Arab Palestin di Israel ni adalah golongan sama ada sosialis, komunis, yang mana yang mereka ini tak ramai yang macam Islamis lah. So Islamis ni yang baru ni, yang RAM yang parti baru yang join government ni dia Islamis lah. Ada beberapa yang Islamis yang baru start masuk. Itu pun sokongan mereka tak banyak, masih rendah lah. So dalam raya baru ni pun yang keluar mengundi 43% daripada whole population, Arab population lah. So it's very low. So meaning divide tu masih berlaku lah antara orang Arab sama ada nak masuk pilihan atau tidak. But now it getting more interesting lah bila kita melihat now Israel tidak boleh lagi menepikan parti Arab ni yang mana mereka terpaksa pinjam hari ni, pinjam sokongan mereka untuk bentuk kerajaan. So now they are becoming more significant lah. So we don't know actually moving forward macam mana, sebab memang ada di sudut ideologi ada sebahagian besar yang mana tak setuju lah untuk join, but things may change in the future. Sebab kalau benda ni berlaku, we have the chances untuk, mereka ada chances untuk untuk dapat lebih pengaruh dalam. In fact sebenarnya dianggarkan kalau semua parti Arab mengundi, semua orang Arab majoriti mengundi, katakan sama jumlah mengundi mereka sama dengan orang Arab, orang komuniti lain dekat Israel, they can get up to 24 or 25 kursi. Mereka pernah capai secara coalition 15 kursi paling maksimum. So kalau mereka capai sampai 25, that's a very huge number in term of politik Israel. Sebab mereka hanya perlukan 61 kursi. 25 already constitute about 1/3 of the number. So it's very huge. Tapi sekarang ni sama ada they want to go into election itu, that's another things yang mana mereka perlu selesaikan lah di kalangan perbezaan pendapat di Israel.
Menarik ya, jadi hak untuk mengundi itu ada. Cuma sama ada dia orang take up that right or not kan. Tapi mungkinlah secara on the inside kita tak tahu sama ada mungkin ada faktor-faktor keselamatan ataupun faktor-faktor rugutan dan sebagainya kan yang mungkin melimitkan dia orang punya participation tu. InsyaAllah harap-harapnya dia orang akan lebih actively come forward and bantu shape masa depan ni lah kan, yang akan obviously directly akan impact kepada masa depan konflik Palestin pada hari ini, insyaAllah. Khalid, Ana mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih mewakili IKRAMOZ Australia sebagai organizer rasa personally dan mewakili pendengar-pendengar lain, rasa banyaklah yang kami dapat belajar. Mungkin secangkir saja daripada pengalaman peribadi Enta sendiri dan juga bacaan-bacaan Enta kan. Kalau dijemput lagi di masa depan untuk mengulas isu Palestin ni, jangan segan-seganlah untuk menerima jemputan kami Australia.
InsyaAllah.
Terima kasih banyak. Okay, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih atas jemputan.
Okay. Setakat itu saja sesi pertama untuk hari ini. Kita akan break sekejap untuk beberapa minit dan kemudian kita akan sambung dengan sesi kedua bersama tetamu kita, iaitu Bro Hilmi Dabakh daripada BDS Australia. Sesi kedua ni akan dikendalikan bahasa Inggeris, insyaAllah. Jumpa lagi sebentar lagi.
Explosions reverberated through Gaza City.
The last time the violence was this bad was 7 years ago in the Gaza war.
Airstrikes against the Gaza Strip.
People have been killed in Gaza since Monday.
متواصل ما يزيد على 70 غارة يعني حلت بهذا المكان، في الشوارع، في الأبنية، أصبحت دمار. كان هناك يعني حتى قبل دقائق يعني معدودة كان هناك أحياء تحت الأنقاض، تم إنقاذهم وإخراجهم من تحت الأنقاض.
دمار كامل، دمار شامل، مش دمار كامل كمان. عندي؟ لا بتهيألك، بتهيألك أنا عندي أطفر ولد في الحارة مش من أولادي، بسوى كل المال اللي الله خلقه. من البشاعة المناظر اللي بنشوفها يعني أنت يعني إيش بتتصور لما أبو بيجي حامل ابنه أشلاء، بلملم أشلاء، يعني دكتور كلام دكتور في الشفاء يعني بقول لك أنا قاعد بجمع تجميع رجلين، رجل من هان رجل من هان، طرف من هان طرف، لغاية ما أجمع طفل لأبوه.
دخل محدد يعني، البيت انقصف كله، اتدمر، راح رنوا عليه، اتصل علينا وراح في عند في الزيتون. لو انضر شنطتي انا واولاد 6 انفار، مش واحد ولا 2 هدول. يعني كان مأوى إلي، جيت هو فيش مأوى، جيت حطيت شنطة وفرطنا على كل حاجة، لأنه بالأول ما كانش عندنا ولا شيء، طلعنا ولا بحاجة من البيت. والحمد لله انتوا لما جبتوا لنا الأغراض هذه يعني كثير سديتوا عنا أغراض.
وجينا هنا سبنا وعينا في الطار، ما لحقناش نتعين، لبسنا العيد، جارتنا أولادها لبسنا وعي العيد وتوفوا.
بالتالي نحن نتقدم بالشكر والتقدير إلى هيئة الأعمال الخيرية أستراليا على وقوفها بجانب وزارة الصحة ومؤازرتها ومساندتها باحتياجاتها لحظة بلحظة. بالتأكيد كل جهد مستطاع من قبل المؤسسات الخيرية ومن بينها مؤسسة هيئة الأعمال الخيرية أستراليا بدعم المنظومة الصحية بكوادر للإسناد للطواقم الطبية من المتطوعين. هؤلاء سيكون لهم دور في أولا تهيئة أماكن الطوارئ.
وفرق الهيئة في الميدان تساهم وتشارك في إنقاذ في استخراج الأحياء من خلال سيارات وفرق الإسعاف والطوارئ التي يعني نشرتها الهيئة في كل مكان، في مستشفيات، في الميدان، في أماكن القصف، في المباني التي دمرت وهدمت. في كل هذه الأماكن يعني الهيئة حاضرة في مراكز إيواء التي سنصلها بعد قليل.
ناقصة علينا، احنا طالعين من بيتنا اتدمر وحياتنا كلها اتدمرت وأولاد تشردوا، وهالقيت مش ملاقية مأوى إلي، وجوزي مريض هيو، وعلاج ما جبت له إياه من البيت كمان، لأنه طلعنا بشعورنا. الناس أعطونا أواعي صلاة وأعطونا فراش، وهينا زي ما انتم شايفين قاعدين في غرفة لا فيها باب ولا شباك ولا حمام الله يعزكم ولا في أي شيء يعني موفر لنا. انتم أحيتونا بهذه المساعدة، ولو إنه يعني مساعدة إنه فعلا بسيطة، بس إنه وفرتوا لنا حاجة. بشكركم والله لهذا الأمر اللي عملتوه، بشكركم انتم اللي تعبتوا وجزفتوا عشان توقفوا بجنبنا وتساعدونا.
Welcome back, everyone. Now we have come to our second session for today. Let's contribute. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our esteemed special guest, Brother Hilmi Dabah from Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions Australia. Welcome, Brother Hilmi.
Hi, Shahrul. Thank you so much. I'm so glad. Thank you so much. So glad and honored to see you all again in IKRAM. You guys are doing a great job. I am so grateful for your work, really. First and foremost, let me begin by acknowledging the traditional custodian of the land I am sitting on today and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I get a little bit emotional when I see the photos of Gaza every time, so forgive me for that. Anyway, I would like to first, it's a pity I don't understand Malay to know what Khalid has said, Brother Khalid, so forgive me if I repeat anything. I'll start directly with sharing my screen for my presentation, and let me try this.
Please go ahead, Brother Hilmi. While you're setting up, I'll just quickly introduce yourself to the audience. Is that okay?
Perfect. Do that, please.
All right. So, as I mentioned earlier, Brother Hilmi is the co-founder and convener of BDS Australia. Now, a little bit of a background. He is actually an Australian Palestinian who came from a family of 8. And he is the only one out of the family who was born outside Palestine. His family was dispossessed out of the city of Jaffa in Palestine. So although he's physically not in Palestine, but obviously his blood and his spirit is still very much Palestinian. And he has been in Australia for 22 years. And since then, he's been fighting very hard via BDS for the Palestinian cause. And I think we are very lucky to have him with us today. And whenever you're ready, Brother Hilmi, I'll pass the mic to you.
I am ready if the slides is seen. Are they seen, Shahrul, fine?
Yes, we can see it, but maybe you want to make it a full screen?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, great.
Is that good? Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Great.
Okay, thank you so much again, Ikram, and give me a really pleasure to talk to you again. And I will try in this presentation to go very briefly on history. I know, guys, you are quite familiar, I think, with the Palestinian cause, but just to bring it into context and say why the BDS was innovated by the Palestinians in Palestine. First and foremost, let's talk a little bit about geography. We talk about Palestine. Where is Palestine in this world? Palestine is part of the Arab countries from Mauritania to Iraq. And these all countries are called, or they are members in organizations called Arab League. Unfortunately, it's very lousy organization because it's a combination of lousy regimes. And I take the opportunity to say, I know we have one of the strongest enemies in the current history. Really, our enemy is horrific. But what's not helping us much is that the superpowers, before they leave us when the colonization era ended, they have planted some sort of puppets, and by time we have either these puppets, collaborators, or tyranny, military, like the horrible regimes, honestly. And their first and foremost priority is to stay in power. So Palestine is not on the top of their list. Why Palestine? Because as you see, it's really strategic point for it's a meeting point for 3 continents: Asia, Europe, and Africa. It is here in this tiny place. The reason I put this map as well, quite often people think, or I hear them saying, is Iran or Turkey or Afghanistan, Arab country. No, it is not. They are Muslim countries like Indonesia and Malaysia and these countries. All right. I think you have all seen this. I will go very, very quickly. This is what Palestine used to be until 1946. There was a British mandate. The Palestinians resisted the British mandate. Since 1936, there were pockets of Jewish people who were living with us very peacefully. It is never a problem of religion in terms of this colonial project. Then when the Arabs started to revolt against the immigration, the migration of Jews to Palestine, encouraged by the British mandate, the United Nations divided Palestine into two countries, or suggested a division: 55% the good fertile land, mostly for the Jews, and 45% for the Palestinians. The Palestinians didn't like that. Of course, they had the right to say no, and there was a war. Israel calls it independence war. We call it catastrophe or Nakba, because in that war we lost. The Zionist militias took like 78% of historical Palestine. We left with 22% Gaza Strip and the West Bank. This is under the Jordanian administration, and this is under the Egyptian administration. Why did we lose the war? Because the Israelis were the elite of the World War II. They were fully equipped, much better equipped, bigger in number than all the Arab countries which started to resist this colonial project at that time. Then there was another war, and we lost again now the other 22%. In fact, Israel occupied Sinai and Golan Heights. And since then, the settlements and expansion of the Israeli colonial project is expanding. Now it's vice versa. Now the Palestinians are living in pockets. So history, the Israeli premise, as you know, that they are the original owner of the lands in history. They had a kingdom which lasted, some historians say 70 years, some historians say 200 years. But the land of Palestine has witnessed so many civilizations: Canaanites, Amorites, Hebrews, and so many. You cannot base a claim on a country on such a 3,000 years myth. And it just doesn't make any sense. That's what they say, that God gave us this land. Anyway, then the land, together with so many surrounding area in the Arab world, were part of the Ottoman Empire, which ended in 1917, around the World War I finish, and the British mandate started. Balfour Declaration, the notorious, nasty declaration to say this: we will give the Jews a land for people without land. 750,000 Palestinians living there were not humans for the British. At that time, or in 1931, official census says that the Jews were less than 17%, and they owned less than 4% of the land. And again, we had no problem with the original Jews. It's only when the Jews' immigration intensified, the Palestinians felt threat and started to resist. All of that is here. I really go very quickly. It's all what I said on the maps, I think. There was another war in 1973, but no one won. And then they started to talk about peace and negotiations and the two-state solution, which Brother Khalid, I've heard him talking about in his speech. And in fact, it never materialized, because the Zionists had agenda. They said we will have the negotiation last forever. It's very clear for any objective observer, academic observer who has an open mind, that Israel really wants the land, doesn't want the people. On record at the moment, I'm sorry, there is no single minister in Netanyahu cabinet who approves the two-state solution. Not a single one. Based on the premise that this land has been given to them by God, I found these two slides recently. In fact, well, I've seen them before, but I thought they help. Ilan Pappé is a quite famous, renowned historian, Israeli. He escaped Israel because he couldn't stand it. He lives in the UK and says most Zionists do not believe that God exists, but they do believe he promised it to them. Norman Finkelstein answers in a few words really greatly this claim that the land is owned by the Jews because of 3,000 years old myth. He says, if I came with a Bible in one hand and the rifle in the other, knocked on your door and said, according to my Bible, my family lived in your home 2,000 years ago, would you pack your bags and go? It's like a joke. More on a history of struggle, in fact. The Palestinians, what did they do against this terrible colonial, brutal project? Did they just sit down and accepted it? Not at all. They established the PLO, which you are all familiar with. They had a formal army, but then they found out that it is not the right idea because Israel is so much has so much power. It was imbalance in power. They tried the guerrilla operations. They had 2 intifadas, and then the Gaza Strip kept resisting until Israel really withdrew unilaterally without negotiating the Palestinians. They just fled Gaza. And Israel waged full-scale wars on Gaza in 2008, 2012, 2014, and now the one which you've just seen. So the Palestinians have been resisting this project for 100 years. But in spite of that, unfortunately, we never had a breakthrough. We had some achievements here or there, but the victory in the full sense to get our freedom didn't happen. Why? The answer is very simple: imbalance of power. Israel is supported unconditionally by United States, as you know. The Zionist lobby is the strongest, is one of the strongest in the world. And that's why we are really facing tough challenge. So I think maybe Khalid talked about Sheikh Jarrah, if I'm not wrong. It's really, they want to evacuate the Palestinians from their homes, which they own based on false documents. It's a continuation of ethnic cleansing and the idea, as I said, the land without people. They harass the prayers in Ramadan in Al-Aqsa Mosque. As you know, it's very important and holy for the Palestinians and Muslims. The young Palestinians resisted. They didn't accept that, and they forced the Israeli security forces to back their barriers in Damascus Gate, the main entrance to the old city. In my view, that led the Israeli leaders to lose their reason. They started to act very stupidly, I must say, and more brutally. So they stormed the Aqsa Mosque. Their armies were inside the mosque. I don't have an image, but they, with gun grenades, with tear gas, rubber bullets, all of it. So the prayers chanted for Hamas, please help. And Hamas did, in fact, listen to them. All right, so why BDS? Now, in 2004, the International Court of Justice ruled that the apartheid wall, I'll go back to this map quickly, the apartheid which Israel built on the borders of the West Bank should be demolished. The wall and the settlements. And it would have been fine if they built the wall on their land, but what they did is went and built this security wall, they say, it's an apartheid wall really, inside the Palestinian land. It split a farmer from his land, split a family from their relatives, and like helped in doing this. So 1 year after the ruling of the International Court of Justice, the Palestinian said, well, if it was any other country, we would have seen results. No results. After 100 years of struggle, International Court of Justice says this should be removed. What are we going to do about this? So a group of young, educated, high-caliber Palestinians sat together and said, let's look in history. How did other countries which faced imbalance of power deal with their problem? They looked at South Africa, and they know, or of course, they are all, they've studied history, all know that, and they knew that the boycott has helped the South African in getting their liberation. And they also looked at our history and the Black civil rights movement, the Black movement in USA. What does it aim? The BDS goal? 3 distinguished, simple goals: end occupation, colonization, and lands captured in 1967. Full equality for Arab Palestinian in Israel proper. That's inside 1948, because although Israel says we are a democracy and they give them citizens, there are 75 laws against the Palestinians in Israel. And then the last one is the right of return, because when Israel was even accepted as a country by United Nations, and we know what is United Nations, superpowers, all of that, in spite of that, Resolution 194 said that the Palestinians should have the right to go back to their homes, but that never happened. Everyone who tried to go back to Palestine were shot dead on the border. What are the BDS strategies? Boycott, this is on the consumer level, so we directly can act now. And there are divestment, which is on the level of businesses, organizations, universities, charities, all of that. And hopefully at one time it will reach the governments, by which the governments will impose sanctions on Israel, suspend free trade, impose arms embargo. This is what happened in South Africa. This is what will happen in Palestine. We have no doubt about it. It's just a matter of time. We just need everyone's support, like your support. It has two streams of the BDS, one for academic and cultural boycott. And why? Because the universities are really, universities in Israel are especially involved in arms development and cyber and informatics for the army. And the other stream is all products and services. How do we implement BDS? BDS is strategic focused national campaigns that achieve victories, such as what we have now in Australia, which I'll come to present very soon. BNC does not publish lists. Quite often, we get asked this question every day. Give us a list of products you want us to boycott. And although that's good for us to feel good, we don't want, of course, to buy anything that supports Israel or Israeli product. But this is not what the BDS is about. The BDS is about focused national strategic campaigns that force mostly international companies to withdraw from Israel. And all our campaigns are really based on extensive research, and they are sensitive to the context. For instance, we never ask anyone to implement boycott for anything that doesn't have an equivalent product. We should be sensible. We can't ask people for the very difficult. I present this slide just to give you an idea why when people say boycott, sometimes people think they help us. If they say, oh, I found this product, go and do a campaign. We can't do that, really. We have every year 3-4 campaigns only. And how do we target? How do we decide on our targets? We have a homework. We members of the boycott committee in Australia, for instance, and every region has its own autonomy to decide on what campaigns or what targets they want to attack. We have criteria. We go and do research. We put marks. We add the marks, and then the highest score, we decide that this is the next target, and we build a campaign strategy. There are anti-BDS arguments, of course, led by the Zionist lobby around the world, and the biggest one is BDS is anti-Semitic, and that's absolutely false. Well, it is not even banned on Jewish businesses. In fact, I can argue even that to say that anti-Israel is anti-Semitic is anti-Semitic by itself, because you are assuming or forcing everyone who is Jewish or supporting the Jewish as they have right to practice their religion to be in the same mindset. Well, we have here a minister, Shalomet Aloni, who says, well, it is a trick. We always use it when from Europe somebody is criticizing Israel, we bring up the Holocaust. When in this country, because apparently she was in US, people are criticizing Israel, then they are anti-Semitic. They say it's our trick. They say we call for the elimination of Israel. That's not true. BDS doesn't call to force the Jews out. BDS violation of free speech, in particular, they mentioned that in the academia, not true. BDS only says boycott conferences and academic world, which is in collaboration with organizations funded by the Israeli government. The campaigns in Australia, historically, we participated in global campaigns, these 3 campaigns, Veolia, which is a huge international French company, G4S security company. There was the Eurovision last year in Israel, and all of these were victories around the world. This has sold all these businesses, divested from Israel, same as G4S. The Eurovision went ahead, and I think even BNC, when called the Boycott National Committee in Palestine, they knew that it will go ahead. But it is estimated 20% of those who were supposed to come and see it have attended. In Australia, we had a big victory. Sorry. There is Royal Flying Doctors. It's a very prestigious Australian organizations that saves people in the outback, put them on planes and bring them and treat them and look after them. They went and wanted to decide, they announced they want to have a joint venture with Elbit System, an Israeli arms manufacturing company, which is notorious. They have the drones. In fact, on their websites, they say our arms are field tested. So we went to our RFDS, we waged a campaign and said, guys, you cannot go joint venture. You save lives. These people destruct life. And we had a victory. They decided they are not going to go ahead. Currently, we have this campaign, HP campaign. Why HP? Because it plays a key role in Israel operation of Palestinians. It provides technology, equipment, and service the Israeli military, including the checkpoints. Look at the checkpoints. This is how they deal with the Palestinians. The other campaign is Puma. Why is Puma? Because it supports the Israeli national football team with members from the settlements. The settlements, by the way, by law, are crime of war. Puma sponsors quite few sport clubs here in Australia, and we are telling them, please don't go in partnership with Puma. There are so many other like suppliers. Just finish this sponsorship. And lately, only in the last 2 weeks, when the war in Gaza happened, we launched a sanction request, in fact, with the Australian Parliament, asking them to publicly condemn Israel's assault on Palestinians, support targeted sanctions and arms embargo, support the suspension of defense, introduce legislation to ban all settlement goods, and prevent Australian companies from operating, trading, investment in settlements. We are not asking for the impossible. We are not saying boycott Israel totally, just the arms and the settlements. Until now, we have around 20,000 people who signed this petition. More than likely, it will go nowhere. We know the governments, we know the Liberal Party, the Labour Party, but it's significant for 18 or 20,000, I think now, people to say to the Australian government, please stop this kind of practice. So how can you help? The campaigns, I talked about them. I'll go back to them now and ask you guys to do something. And then we have, we are on all social media platforms. We have a store online. If you would like to buy T-shirts or bags or stickers, please do. And only if you can afford to donate regularly. Look what we've seen in the videos and the appeal, and that's so great. But in the normal times, when people from Australia go and visit the Palestinians or visit Palestine, say, what do you guys want? They say, we want one thing. Please go spread the word and participate in BDS. Thank you. If you, Shahrul, allow me, are you there, Shahrul?
Yes, Brother Hilmi.
Can I please ask all the audience, please, all the audience who wants to support Palestine, pull up your phones and take a screen or scan for this QR. It directly takes you to the petition. It will take you less than a minute. Is that okay?
Okay. All right. So yes, I would like to ask all the audience to scan the QR code and fill up the form as a form of support for the campaign. In fact, Brother Hilmi, if there's anyone missing from today's session, I'll probably get this QR code so that we can post on the IKRAM Australia Facebook page later on.
Thank you so much, Shahrul. But my experience says people sometimes get so busy with their life. As much, I will leave this for 1 or 2 minutes, if that's okay.
Yes,
1 minute.
We can leave it on.
Yeah, and then when they are done, I'll give it another 20 seconds.
So.
I will go to Puma, exactly the same. while you're doing that, I will talk about I won't do the sanctions one. Go online, because that one you have to be a citizen, in fact. Okay, I think I am done. Thank you so much again, and I'm now ready to take any questions. I'll stop sharing.
Okay, thank you, bro Helmi, for the quick overview of BDS, and also a great summary of the historical facts about Palestine and how Israeli country comes into place as well. So from my personal experience, the two-state solution is always just an argument made by people who try to look like they are in the middle. They are not pro-Israeli, but in fact we know Australian government keeps saying they support two-state solution, while at the same time they don't even recognize the legitimacy of Hamas government in Gaza. So it's not really a true two-state solution, I guess, in that sense. Okay, Brother Helmi, so the first question for the sessions is how do you measure the impact of BDS campaigns in Australia so far?
Okay, if we talk about how we can quantitatively measure Australia and worldwide, BDS Australia is part of a global movement. It's really very difficult, and I don't know. I haven't come across any study that has done this, but we know for sure that there are these multinationals which withdrew from Israel. They lost billions of dollars. Veolia lost $20 billion contracts. That's what forced them to withdraw. Then, if we talk about not really the economic side, apart from the economic side, we should really look at the moral impact of changing the discussion on Palestine since BDS started. We can see the impact in terms of the huge shift within the global civil societies, as well as political representatives talking about calling for effective measures against Israel's violation. That's big. That's huge. If we want really to see in a good, in another angle, let's see what's the reaction of the enemy. Israel is going crazy about BDS. Crazy. They are going crazy legislating in USA and Europe against BDS. This is anti-Semitic. This is anti-Semitic. I think the fact that they are doing that says it all. And there is a quote by Netanyahu saying this is more strategic threat than Iran even. So I think the impact is definitely strong. It takes time. We must say that the Zionist lobby have succeeded in tarnishing its name a little bit with this anti-Zionism. But we work on the grassroots movement. We think by time it will go, as it happened in South Africa, from the consumer to the businesses to the government, and the sanctions will be imposed in Israel one day.
Okay, thank you, Brahimi. I guess there might not be any numerical data that we can look at, but having said that, the success you mentioned earlier, where Royal Flying Doctors canceled their deal with the system from Israel is a good victory. I think that's a very good response in that sense.
And Shahrul, we participated in Veolia because these campaigns, one of the criteria in the criteria list I presented is we'd like to complement international campaigns. Of course, we have much more impact when we work together around the world on the same targets. Like HP Puma are now international. Now we are going to have soon one for against Elbit, because Elbit is a target, and it's going to be more we will focus more on Elbit in Australia, because there is now a project in Victoria by which the Victorian government, which seems to be really known to be so much pro-Zionism, going in partnership in creating a IT center and artificial intelligence and things like that. There is a new campaign coming soon. Just watch this space. So we definitely contributing as much as we can with the capacities and the resources we have in Australia so far. Okay. We will talk about the one state, two state maybe when we come to another question. I'll be based on the notes you said when you introduced the questions. Thank you.
Of course. Helmi, the next question comes from Brother Akmal on the Facebook page. Does BDS lobby other governments to boycott trade with Israeli settlement products? I guess BDS obviously is an international brand. Most countries that not probably have BDS over there. So we have one in Malaysia, we have one in Australia. Does BDS have ever approached the, let's say, the foreign trade ministry of that country to boycott trading Israeli products?
You mean other countries than Australia?
Yes, that's right.
All right. Look, to my knowledge, and I can't really allege that I know what's happening in BDS in every single country, I haven't generally because as I presented, the BDS comes in gradually. You start on the grassroots, then the businesses and non-profit, and then the government. I don't think there has been really focused work on the sanctions level. Maybe in some countries like Malaysia or Indonesia, or these countries like Malaysia is taking excellent position. They have canceled this swimming international because they don't want to host Israeli team. Like these countries, maybe you can go. Now, I don't know even how much there is trade between Israel, to be honest, between Israel. But internationally, not yet. We used the last strong sympathy, strong support for the Palestinians in the world, in Australia. We wanted to use that to put the sanctions against the parliament in Australia. It was possibly like a pre-step. We shouldn't, maybe in theory, we shouldn't go that far until we really build stronger grassroots. But you knock the door first time and you see what happens.
Agree. Okay. Now, Brother Hilmi, the next question is, apart from the BDS, which other organizations actively campaigning for Palestinian cause in Australia?
All right, that's a very good question. By the way, BDS Australia is an umbrella organization. We are a coalition of 12 pro-Palestine organizations, really all active Palestinian, pro-Palestine organizations in Australia. And there is another coalition, it's called Australia Palestine Advocacy Network, that does lobbying. We do BDS only. APAN, they call it APAN, Australia Palestine Advocacy Network. They do lobbying. They talk to the politicians, they visit Canberra, they talk to they cover media, they write in the newspapers. They are doing a great job. But let me tell you my own view, because I am an ardent BDS. I think people who, even the founders of BDS, they thought about BDS because they gave up on politicians. They gave up on politicians in the Western world because they're either corrupted, they don't know, or they don't want to know. They have agendas. Even if they know the best truth, they still don't change. You talk to them, yeah. Two states, we support. Well, like Australia, for instance, they take this incredible positions. They vote against Palestine in every time. And when we tell them, why do you do that? In United Nations, I mean, for instance, they say, yeah, but we support two-state solution. And what are you doing about it? What are you doing to implement the two-state solution? So it's just a lip talk. They use this it's becoming sickening, this two-state solution on the lips. What are you doing? We accepted two-state solution. It's damn not fair for us. 22% of Palestine. Give it to us. How it's going to happen if Israel is expanding, annexing, building settlements, killing, kidnapping kids from their homes? How that's going to happen any time soon? So that's the answer. APAN is the other one, and they do good work. And in fact, they're umbrella organization as well, and they have the same organizations. The reason we haven't merged, let me clarify this point. It may be by time when mystify this BDS is anti-Semitic, because I admitted that they have, or more than really give them the credit, the politicians, because they have agendas, because they are influenced by Zionists, because they want to stay in power, they use it rather than really being convinced with it. But until that, BDS is a grassroots movement. Until we build the pressure from down up, I think there is really no much. And they don't, even the most supportive, that's the problem, even the most supportive for Palestinians politicians, we know a few who are really good, they say, don't talk BDS with the politicians at the moment. Work on the grassroots. So we have listened, and we've done this. In the back scene, we really coordinate. In the front scene, we have two umbrella organizations, one for lobbying, one for BDS.
Okay. All right. That's clear. Thank you so much, Brother Hilmi. Now, the next question, I guess, which is, I can consider some concerns perhaps in the students studying in Australia, and maybe even as well government workers. Given the Australian government's relationship with Israel, is there any disadvantage for students who are actively supporting Palestine?
I don't think at all. I just talked about the legislations against the BDS and the tarnishing of the name of BDS. This BDS is a sin. We admit it. That exists. But there has been around the world legal cases. Either Zionists pushed for a legal case against BDS, or Palestinian activists. Like, and give you an example, there is in USA a film producer. She is a decent, great woman who went and made movies in Palestine, in Gaza. They are incredibly great movies. Anyway, the Zionist lobby in Georgia, in USA, She went in Georgia and wanted to do something, but the legislation against BDS prevented her. So she went to her lawyers, and they made a legal case against this legislation in Georgia. And the federal court in USA ordered Georgia state to cancel this legislation. It's happening everywhere. We have had so many legal victories. Like last month, there was a case against a French activist for BDS, great woman. And the Zionist lobby waged a legal war against her, and she won. The jury said it's based on nothing. It's based on thin air. It's free speech. She's allowed to do that. And so in Australia, we had a famous case, Professor Jake Lynch, ardent supporter for the Palestinians. He was University of Sydney. A legal firm came from Israel and attacked him legally in a federal court here based on discrimination and anti-Semitism and all this, we know about. And it costed him $250,000. When they came and did the case, they knew they have no chance on earth. But they said, in fact, we want to bankrupt the terrorist. And we, of course, supported him, and we done fundraising and all of that, and he won. So, look, they are not going to do that. So no one should be scared from them waging a war with, because even the Zionist leaders in Australia told that company, which is said to be linked to the Mossad, in fact, why did you come and do that before consult us? Because it was backfiring on the Zionist lobby here. So look, I am not a lawyer. I can't assure anyone anything. But history says so far, every time they tried to cause legal issues to BDS advocates or BDS activists, they failed. And I don't think they will, because it's freedom of speech. It's your right. You can tell your kids, don't eat this or don't eat that. I tell my family, we are not buying HP. I'm not buying Puma. What? How on earth you are going to tell me, no, that's illegal? All right. Sorry, I can't hear you, Shahrul.
Sorry, maybe legal rights in Palestine is not being upright, but thankfully, everywhere else, legal human rights are still there. Therefore, they can't really justify their oppositions against BDS on a legal grounds.
Of course, and there are so many human rights organizations and law firms who believe in human rights and freedom of speech. In fact, in Australia, we have an organization called Australian Council for Fair and Free Speech. They are not even BDS advocate, but they will fight against trying to silence BDS. And I'm sure that there will be lawyers, like what happened in USA. This Martin Abbey, for instance, the film producer, the Islamic Care, I think it's called, they appointed for her lawyers. Look, I think the law is on our side, definitely. It's very, very basic.
Okay. All right. Brother Helmi, the next question is, what are the ways to get more support and interest into Palestinian cause in the, I guess, in the greater Australian community, including Australians themselves as well?
One word: support BDS. It is, in fact, you guys, people, you've listened to BDS. We are more than happy to help you in anything you need, material, more education, all of that. All of you be ambassadors for BDS. Connect us, please, with you people you think like, especially these potentially supporting communities, Indonesian, Malaysian, Turkish, Muslim. Let's start with the easy ones and talk to their organizations. You as Malaysians, talk as much and spread the word as much as you can within the Malaysian community in Australia. Again, it is a matter of spreading the word, spreading the concept, spreading the campaigns on the grassroots level. You can't do anything better than that when you are remotely far from Palestine. You can't hold a gun, you can't throw a stone. What you can do is really help with what the Palestinians have asked. Now, if anyone is in crisis, anyone, I am sick, or what, you come to me, you say, how do you want how to help me? You ask me, how do I help you? The call for BDS is endorsed and launched by 170 civil society organizations in Palestine. So this is what the Palestinians want. We just ask them.
Yes, I mean, I think I can relate to that, Brother Hilmi. I remember I joined the rally at Hyde Park probably about 2 weeks ago, and the day before I mentioned that to my colleagues at the practice, and some of them belittling the effort, and they say, if after the rally the Palestine will be freed and you'll get Nobel Prize and blah blah blah, all of these talks and belittling, and I think it happens, but at least if we keep the discussions going, it will open up more eyes and thoughts, I think.
Absolutely, Shahrur. Look, I'm not discounting that the impact of the rallies around the world for supporting Gaza now, or it's great, or the donation, all of that is fantastic. But it's like it has a short life. If we want to leave an impact, which is like lasting impact, sustainable impact, we want action that is ongoing, not one-off, not as they say, firefighting. We want, there was a war on Gaza. The world, good people in the world say, no, that's not right. We give donations, all of that, and then there is another war in 3 days. Israel should understand enough is enough. No more.
Okay, well, Helmi, there's another question coming from the Facebook page live from Sister Shifa. What is your response for the statement? We need to look at both parties. Not only Palestinians face difficulties, Israel citizens do as well.
Well, Israeli citizens are, look, I don't think they are really. Okay, let me go back a little bit and take the big picture. I talked how the superpowers have created Israel. In my view, forget the God gave them the land, because no one believes in that. Not even the Israelis themselves. Those who really, not apart from these very religious, crazy, stupid people. I'm sorry, no one believes. Israel was established as a colonial project for the superpowers because of the strategic location, because of the resources, because the Arab world from Iraq to Mauritania, as I showed in the map, we speak the same language, we have 90% the same religion. When the era of the colonization finished in terms of military presence has become not acceptable in the world after World War II. Before Israel and France, before America becomes the superpower, withdraw, they divided the Arab world into pieces. Sykes-Picot, it's famous agreement between France. And they planted these puppet regimes. And the third thing, terrible third thing they did is created this Israel. I think, look, and the Zionist leaders, if you read history, like you think these are brilliant, intelligent, all of that, smart. I think they've committed the most stupid mistake by choosing to come and choose Palestine as a homeland. I'm serious, that's serious. If I'm looking at it objectively, how do you come and plant this tiny, small foreign body within a sea of people who are homogeneous and create this like animosity, and people can't accept it because it's a foreign body, and we even accepted them as people without having them to have this apartheid regime. Fine, but they want to evacuate the land, kick the Palestinians out and take land, and if they can take Jordan, and they will take Egypt if they can, but of course they are short on demography. So now they really, what's the challenges? The challenges is their mindset. They have to change the mindset because they have to accept living in peacefully with the Palestinians. I talked here in a synagogue once. One rabbi who seems to really wanted to open their minds, and I talked to them. And I said, guys, we accepted to live with you peacefully. Give us a chance. Every time there is negotiations, it leaves nothing. Settlements, expanding, killing, assassinating, embargo in Gaza, 2 million in a prison. How they will not have peace? They will not have peace of mind, of course. But we are not the people responsible. Their action is responsible. And what the disaster is, few years back, 15 years back, before this Netanyahu, when Rabin was assassinated, there was a fraction, important part of them want to peace, two-state solution. They keep electing this Netanyahu and the right, and now maybe more right governments. And they are just chauvinists, extremists, racists. I mean, you are leading yourself to this. You bear the consequences. And I can tell you, this is not going to last. Israel in the current shape, we know it's not going to last. It's not going to last. Because I liken it with a table or roof, which has like 4 legs, a table which has 4 legs. Israel is strong and exists today because they have these legs. One of them, again, the Arab regime and situation is terribly bad. And that is our biggest problem, to be honest with you. Secondly, there is this unconditional support for Israel from the West and United States in particular. Thirdly, there is this strong support by the Jewish Zionist lobby around the world. And they have this military incredible power. Any of that, these legs, gets broken, and it's going to get broken one day. The Jewish in USA are changing. The new generation don't see Israel as their homeland. They see this is incredible. This is against humanity. What they are committing is just not acceptable. And there is a shift. The fact that the unconditional support, Thomas Friedman is an important writer in Zionist Jewish, not maybe reasonable Zionist, wrote an article last week. He said he thinks that Biden will be the last Democratic president supporting Israel. There is a shift in the Democratic Party as well. So things will change, and people think, even my family tell me, why you are so optimistic. I have been optimistic throughout history because throughout my history, based on historical reasons, because in colonial projects, they never were sustained except when they finished the indigenous people. Take Australia, take USA. But we are 14 million Palestinians. Tough luck. We are not going to vanish, disappear. And the Palestinians, the kid who is born in Chile today, he knows Palestine like the one in Palestine. So they have a challenge. They don't know who they are messing with.
Yes. Okay. Brother Helmi, I think we've come to the last question for the day, for the sessions. Now, actually, before you join in the session today, we have to change the link and everything, because the initial session was stopped abruptly. I think the Facebook somehow blocked our session initially, so we have to move on to another live session. Now, in that matter, what is your thought on Facebook and Twitter has been actively deleting posts regarding Israelis' humanitarian crimes? Is there any benefit in boycotting these social media platforms?
Look, I am not an expert, but I have been reading there is few websites by which you go and rank these platforms, and they have been very effective. I don't have them in mind. I did read articles. I don't Google. How can I rank these platforms? If we all together rank Facebook down, I heard even it impacted on its share price. So let's do that. Let's go when they are unfair. Let's do and rank them. It's terrible. It's incredible. And that's why people now, so many are going to TikTok and things like that. Yeah, we are reading that. Unfortunately, it's fact of life. It's again the influence of the Zionist lobby around the world. Unfortunately, we have this kind, like historically, the colonial, the imperialist, the colonialist, they were very brutal in cases in physically, like in Algeria, they killed 1 million people, in Asia and so many. Our enemy is so brutally in this, in like silencing everyone. Everyone opens his mouth against us. They insist on conflating anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism. This is something else. Why on earth criticizing Israel is anti-Semitic? It's a country. We should also demystify, this is important, that the Jews are an ethnicity or a race. They are not. I could come from my ancestors, may have been Jews. How do I know? If people choose their religion. What's the relationship between a Jewish in Siberia or in New York and a Jewish in Yemen or Ethiopia? They are trying to tell us we are one race, one ethnicity. This is the land God gave us. What kind of crap? I'm sorry. Yeah, this is. We should really demystify this concept of their ethnicity, because what they keep saying is Israel is for us like Holland, like for the Dutch people. No, we are sorry. You are a religion which we fully respect. You know, we in Islam we have the 3 religions we respect fully. But don't come to me with colonial projects and kick me out of my home and say, as Frankenstein said, and say, well, God gave me this land 3,000 years ago. What kind of logic?
Yeah. It's definitely unacceptable and irrational.
Do you want me to comment quickly on the two-state thing?
Yes, I can see if you can quickly wrap up for a minute or so.
Look, there is a lot of discussion about that. My simple view on this, it's really premature discussion, I think. I see Palestinians really arguing warmly, one state, two state, all of that. I say, guys, you can do it academically. You can discuss what you want. Even the BDS doesn't talk about one state, two state. I think now the top priority to discuss is to end the kidnapping the kids from their homes at night, stop the blockade of Gaza, stop the expansion of settlement, annexation of land, stealing of land, killing Palestinian activists, all of that. This is the priority. We need first to stop that, get our freedom, stop discrimination against Palestine. When we accepted by international community, they keep the lip talk at 2 states. We accepted 22%. Give it to us. The right of return is second. No one will relinquish the right of return. What I said in the synagogue against, they told me, BDS, you mean that will be done with Israel, no more Israel. I said, why? Let's that's my view. I don't represent any in this view. Let's have the two-state solution. Live together peacefully. Let the hatred shade away, the blood shade away. We Palestinians have the right to go to the 22%. And the Jewish who has never been to the Middle East doesn't have a right to go now to Tel Aviv and get citizenship. That's not fair. That's not right. So let's live peacefully, and then we do a referendum. We decide together what we want to do. It's too early now to discuss one state, two state. It's not topical. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much, Brother Hilmi. I think sadly that's the end of the session for today. I wish we have more time to sit down together and talk more questions about the crisis. Obviously, we can't fit the whole questions in one day, because it has been a many years of struggling and efforts to free Palestine. But I think on behalf of IKRAM Australia as the organizer, I would really thank Brother Hilmi and also Brother Khalid today for joining us, sacrificing their time on the weekends to give us their thoughts. I feel so inspired by both of you, because you have always been struggling and putting your efforts all the time on the course. Thank you very much. And to all the audience, I would suggest to keep an eye on the BDS website for the latest campaigns. If you missed the QR code earlier, we have posted the link for the QR code for both campaign, Puma and also HP, on the comment section there. And also from IKRAM Australia, please keep an eye on our website Facebook page, because there will be more talks like this in the future, discussing about other things as well. Thank you so much, Brother Hilmi. Thank you, Brother Khalid. We wish to see you again soon.
Anytime. And anytime you have questions, anyone would like to shoot me a question, I'm more than happy to answer. You have my email address. I have no secrecy. Please share it.
Okay. Inshallah, see you again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.